I want to see if I can piece together the story of what has happened to me during the last 8 years. I was doing some things that I don't know that the average person would do. It was my goal to read the Bible in its entirety, which I have never been able to do. And it seems like since I read the Bible, it's put me into a different realm. I decided that I would read the book of Revelation, because the book of Revelation, the person who reads it is supposed to read it with joy. And whoever hears it is supposed to listen with joy and glee. So I decided to read the book of Revelation. And what I decided to do was to try to draw what John had seen in the book of Revelation, so I can get a better idea of what was going on. So I started drawing, out of the book of Revelation and reading the book of Revelation. And, it seems like all stupidity started to happen. My daughter was acting up in school, doing things that she should not have been doing. And I guess, some of that can be attributed, to my daughter being a young teenager, promiscuous. But, if I call myself a good father, I would consider that to be that of a follower and not a leader. That's the way I felt about it. My beautiful daughter, falling into the crowd and not setting the example. So I was reading out of the book of Revelation and drawing, what I thought as best I could, what John had saw. And at the same time, I was talking to my ex-sister-in-law's husband, William Sanders. And he was telling me things like, Jesus was a story, very similar to Horus, the Egyptian god, with the head of an animal, a bird. So he was feeding those thoughts into me, quoting popes in the Vatican, that indicated that Jesus was a story, was an allegory. So I started listening, to what he had to say. I'm an open-minded guy. I always wanted my relationship with the Lord to be true and so and honest. So at the same time that my friend, I guess, was telling me that the story of Jesus was an allegory, he was telling me that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John was not the authors of the New Testament. That it was actually Flavius Josephus, who is also supposed to go under the pseudonym of Arius Piso. So I started doing my checking into Flavius Josephus, alias Arius Piso. And I found that Flavius Josephus was born 4 years after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. I'm talking about 37 AD. And he passed away 100 AD. He was there to witness the fall of Masada the mountainous fortress of Hebrews that were resisting the Roman occupation in 75 AD. He passed away 100 AD. So he would have been alive around the time, that Christianity was in its infancy. So, from my understanding is that Flavius Josephus was an aristocrat of some sort, and he was a leader. And I read where he was supposed to have betrayed his own people because he surrendered to the Romans. I thought of that in that regard, but Flavius Josephus's writings support Scripture. It's one of the writings that theologians go to when they want to confirm facts that are stated in the Bible. So his writings are useful, but that does not mean that he is the author of the New Testament. And I'm saying that because of the stupidity that has taken place in my life. So, I think that part of my ordeal, or what I have been going through during the last 8 years, is something that is meant to be. I accept that. What I learned is that the Lord is the Alpha and the Omega. He's the first thing to come into existence, the Word. And if the Lord is the Alpha and the Omega, I found that everything in between is supposed to happen. It's going to happen. Somebody upstairs is pulling the strings. That's what's going on. So stupidity starts to happen. My daughter's acting up in school. I'm getting whispers in my ear that Flavius Josephus is the author of the New Testament, depicted to be Arius Piso. And I did some checking on Arius Piso. There is some affiliation with the Roman aristocracy. I believe it was Gaius Piso or something like that, who was murdered by the Emperor Nero, alleged to have been involved in the burning of Rome. So, stupidity starts to happen around me and stuff, and I have these words that are staying with me. What have you done for the Lord lately? It would have been okay, if it would have been just "What have you done for the Lord" by Elder Webb, but it was "What have you done for the Lord lately" that stuck with me. So after I left the Cleveland area after the death of my mother, I left and relocated to the Central Alabama Veterans Healthcare Facility in Montgomery. These were things that were meant to be part of my growth, as I see it. So, those words stay with me. What have you done for the Lord lately? And I'm living in Montgomery, Alabama. So, I start to get very inquisitive. I start looking into the Cuyahoga County Clerk of Courts. And I'm looking up everybody. I'm looking up myself. Everybody that I can think of, I'm looking up. And I look up Elder Webb. Elder Rufus Webb. And I find out that he has 3 pages of charges against him. Some of everything. Not paying his bills, not doing this, not doing that, not doing some of everything. Now, these are things that I was doing my inquiries in something like 2010. My mother passed away on January 24th, 2004. Yeah. So I'm doing these check-ins, and I see that Elder Webb has 3 pages of charges against him. Not paying his credit cards, not paying his taxes. That's what I focused on. Him not paying his taxes. And I'm wondering, why is he not paying his taxes? He has businesses. I know he has a courier service, and I was told that he also had a eating establishment somewhere around Lakeview and Superior. And I'm looking at him, why isn't he paying his taxes? He's tax exempt, but I know he has those courier services, where he's taking people to and from. Okay, and at the same time, what have you done for the Lord lately? So really all the time Rufus was a get around to. And I'm the type of individual that don't like smart remarks from hypocrites. So, eventually I left the Central Alabama Veterans Health Care Facility in Montgomery, and I was blessed enough to be able to learn the culture down there. It's part of my growth. The civil rights, the birth of the civil rights movement, the home of Rosa Parks in Tuskegee. Okay, the burial sites of Booker T. Washington. Okay, and George Washington Carver. The history behind all that. The Civil Rights Museum in Montgomery, the Dexter Church, Baptist Church, right down the street from the Capitol of Montgomery. Dr. Martin Luther King's first church. Okay. So I left Montgomery in April of 2011, and I relocated to the Richard Rodebush VA facility in Indianapolis, Indiana. And that was absolutely fantastic when I got there. And this is Cleveland, Ohio, right here. That's Cleveland. Cleveland, Ohio. So, it was time for me to leave Montgomery. I felt that I wasn't being paid enough. I was training contracting officers, future contracting officers, who eventually, I believe, became GS-14s, and I was just a GS-7 at the time. So I relocated to the Richard Rodebush VA facility in Indianapolis, Indiana. My address was 226 East 12th Street, right downtown between Alabama Avenue and Delaware Street. Delaware Street is a street that the presidential mansion of Benjamin Harrison is located on. And I could walk right around the corner to get to Delaware Street. It was beautiful. The canal was nearby. I could walk downtown. I was right downtown. is where I was. And every day I would go out and I would walk down to the canal and I would look at the memorials, the USS Indianapolis, the World War I Museum with the large picture of General Pershing in Indianapolis, the NCAA museum. You know, Indianapolis was just fantastic. You know, I went to the home, to the grave of John Dillinger, John Herbert Dillinger. I was there. And prior to my trip to Indianapolis, you know, I was fortunate enough to go into the ancient caves in Kentucky, in the childhood home of Abraham Lincoln, on my way down to Alabama. The scene on 71 going to Cincinnati is magnificent. The beauty that I've seen. So I relocated to the Richard Rodebush VA medical facility in Indianapolis in April of 2011. And I worked in SPD, supply processing and distribution. It was my job to keep track of the inventory. At least that's what I was told. And that's pretty much what I did. I ordered supplies for the surgical departments. And it was always something going on that we didn't seem to have. They would always want me to borrow from other facilities. You know, things that I felt that we should have had all along, all the time, if we would have prepared for it. We're talking about surgeries that are very important. It's essential that we have the supplies available. And every time you look around, they want me to run over to another facility to borrow. And I'm not the type of individual who likes to borrow. So at that time, I was saving up as much as I could. I was putting $750 every paycheck into my thrift savings plan, preparing to, put myself in a better position, thinking about retirement. And I accumulated about $51,000 in my TSP, only for the government to take out $21,000, after I retired. And I never got the money back. So I went to the Richard Rodebush facility in Indianapolis, and everything was great, except for my job. Okay, I was tired of working under pressure constantly. I'm 40-something years old. No, I was older than that. I was in 50-something. I was in my 50s. Okay, close to 57. Actually, I was 57 when I retired. So, I just got tired of it. Working for people and having to do this and having to do that. So I sat around and figured out my budget. And, I saw that it was doable, that I could wait. I could last until I drew Social Security, which would have been about a $1,280 pay raise increase per month. So I was living off retirement, the VA annuity, and my VA disability, which I found, to be enough, to sustain until I reach, the age of Social Security and started drawing Social Security, which was about 57 to 62, I think it was, 62. I would have had to wait for 5 years, which is what I did, and I was successful with doing that. So, all of a sudden, I'm in Indianapolis and I'm posting information about Elder Rufus Webb, which is true. And Plato says that people who tell the truth are hated. They're disliked. So I'm posting information on Facebook about Rufus, being a hypocrite and not paying his bills and things like that. Mocking him, I guess I was a little overboard with what I did. And at the same time, I'm posting other information, Money Matters, history, songs and things like that. And I did look at it as propaganda because I believe song is a form of propaganda. Propaganda is a message in which you are trying to convey to other individuals to influence their minds. And I believe that is what music does. So, I'm posting this stuff about Rufus, being a hypocrite, not paying his bills and that kind of thing. And I tell my cousin, Edith Joyce Fisher, about what's going on with Rufus, that I'm calling him out on Facebook. And her words was, "It's okay, Rick. We don't go to his church anyway. We gave him $1,000 on the premise that he was going to go out and get a new church, and he took the money and paid it on his bills." That's what I was told by my cousin, Edith Joyce Fisher. So after that, I didn't realize that she was going to cowardly, stick me in the back, after I brought it to Rufus's attention. He sneaks behind my back after I left my telephone number with him to call me with Bernie Sanders. He snuck behind my back and talked to my 93-year-old aunt and my 70-something-year-old cousin, Edith Fisher. And they conspired to get together with my sister, Narda Dixon, my cousin, Sherry Cato, my ex-wife, Jessica Wimberly, my son, Jason Wimberly, my cousin, Marilyn Payton, my daughter, Robin Black, my son-in-law, Stacy Black, my daughter, Rashida Gundy. They all were involved in ostracizing me, and some of them, such as Narda, Mookie, Sherry, Jessica, were involved in having me detained unjustifiably in the Cleveland VA and the Richard Rodebush VA facility. All this stupidity has happened after I started, writing out of the book of Revelation. Okay, so, my kids and everybody, they're concerned about me, because I'm writing this stuff. And I don't give a damn about who's seeing what I'm writing on Facebook. I feel that I've achieved self-actualization. Why should I give a damn about who's seeing what I'm writing on Facebook? But evidently, my family cares. Okay, but I'm not a follower. All right, so they care. So they conjure up this scheme, that Ricky's lost his mind. He's acting like Quasi. Is what my sister tells me. When I go over to her house and I ask her for a hug one day, she looks at me stoically. He's acting like Quasi, Ricky. You're acting like Quasi, Ricky. Well, I don't see any similarities between the way I'm acting and the way Quasi's acting. If anything, you're drunk, Narda. That's the way I thought about it. What I do is none of your business. Okay? I go over there another time. I'm talking to Kwame. And we're talking. Kwame is my nephew, Narda's oldest son. And we're talking about hip hop. And I'm talking music. I'm talking about the effects that the hip hop music has on our culture. It's breeding violence. He's talking over me constantly. He would not let me get a word in. And disrespecting me, kind of talking over me, my nephew. Okay? I find it unacceptable, his conduct. And not really meaning it. I'm telling him that I shoot his ass. And just like Burdell, shot Tommy. My dad shot Tommy. My nephew, Tommy the nephew. Okay, in the leg. I really didn't mean it. I didn't know that they were going to take it that seriously. I didn't realize that Narda was going to go on a deep end because she's angry at me telling the truth about Elder Webb, who insulted me when my mother was dying in the hospital with a hole in her back. So, oh geez. Now, they were successful in getting me locked up in Indianapolis, in which I went over to the Richard Rhoda Bush facility after being visited by my kids. My kids came to see me around Thanksgiving of 2015. And that's when stupidity really started to happen. Stupidity. Jason, when he came, I was so happy that he was there that I cried for a long time. I was happy with joy. That was the first time that my kids had taken the time out to come see me. I thought that they were looking out for my well-being, and then a little later, Robin came to Indianapolis to see me in my apartment. And I was so happy that they came. I wanted to show them around Indianapolis, the sights, the beautiful library. But all the time that they were there, Jason was badgering me and getting on my nerves. I didn't realize that Jason was like that. Unreasonable. I'm telling you, him and Robin, unreasonable. I thought about throwing their asses out several times, but that was the first time that they came to see me ever, other than when my mother died. Okay, I was pissed that none of my family members came to see my mom as much as we have done for them. Okay, and me taking them all over the world and all that kind of stuff. And they never came to see my mom. They never came to see me. Okay, when they come to Cleveland, they run right over to Bernice's house. Okay, and I have a problem with that. And don't even come see me. Yeah, that pisses me off. So, let me gather my thoughts here. Gee whiz. So they come to Indianapolis. I want to show them around all the sights, in Indianapolis, everything. Jason's badgering me. Come on, Dad. You got to go to the hospital, Dad. And I have concerns about a positive hepatitis C. lab result that I had gotten in 2013. So I have concerns about that. I went over to the VA, the Richard Rodebush VA, to address it. Other times, I believe they had the interferon, something like that they were poison they were putting in people's bodies at the time. And there was a waiting list to get on that. So, reluctantly, I agreed to go over to the VA with Jason. And I was telling him and Robin that my concerns were physical, not mental. I'm talking to the nurse in one room, and I passed the test that I was giving them. I believe it was that stepping stone test with flying colors, and everything was okay. And then, all of a sudden the nurse leaves out of the room and she comes back and she says she wants to keep me in there. And I'm pissed. I damn near ran out of the damn place because I did not want to be there. As soon as I got home, the police were there waiting on me. Is everything okay, sir? Yeah, it's all right. The police came over to my house 2 times while Jason and Robin came to see me. Jason took this knife that I had, a big knife that I bought in Alabama, a souvenir, and stuck it up under my mattress. Both of them were acting stupid. And I thought about throwing their asses out a bunch of times. But I didn't do that because they never came to see me. And I was so happy that they took the time out to come see me, thinking that they were looking out for my well-being. So, I even told the story to them about what happened when Rufus insulted me when my mother was dying in the hospital with a hole in her back. And it didn't seem to make a difference. So I recorded the story on Jason's television about what happened with me being insulted by Rufus, and my mother having a hole in her back and not being able to swallow her saliva. Her lung had compressed. She was on a ventilator. I told them the story about that. But it didn't seem to make any difference. Jason is bugging the hell out of me. You got to go to the hospital. You got to go to the hospital. You got to go to the hospital. So I went in the lobby. They cut their trip short. They wanted to go home, which kind of pissed me off because I wanted to show them around. Okay, so I'm sitting. I take them over to the hotel. I'm sitting in the lobby, and when Jason comes down, you got to go to the hospital. You got to go. Let's go for a ride. We go for a ride. He's trying to convince me to go to the hospital. And I have concerns about Hep C. So I go over to the hospital, and all of a sudden I'm seeing the same nurse that I saw a few days earlier. The one that wanted to keep me in there, the psychiatrist, not neuropsychiatrist. And we're talking. She asked me, what do? I told her I like history. And she's bringing up the conversations, I told her what I like to do. I told her that I was helping out a friend of mine, James Sullivan, on the west side of Cleveland, that had a community watch program. Now James is deceased. Okay, but I believe that Karen is still alive, and I know Valerie Denson is working in prosthetics. She probably would know the whereabouts of Karen Sullivan, James's wife. And I have James's obituary, in which he was running a community watch program somewhere around 108th West 108th in Detroit. And I also told her that Thomas Jefferson had impregnated a black woman, Sally Hemings. And I told her that I lived around the corner from the presidential mansion of Benjamin Harrison. The lady wrote The psychiatrist put in my notes that I was delusional, and they whisked me on up to the 6th floor, I guess, of the psych ward. And I'm pissed. You know, they wheeled me out on the wheelchair, and I'm screaming out, Robin, Robin, Robin. Why y'all doing this to me? And that information is noted in my medical report. Okay, while I was in the Richard Rodebush facility, pissed about being in there. You know, the nurses were mean. You know, didn't want to, I was getting on the nurses while I was in there because I'm pissed. I considered going on a hunger strike, being in there until I got hungry. Then the most notable thing in there was while I was in there, I met a fella named Colin Bowen. Colin had a very, very sad expression on his face. And I looked at Colin. Very sad expression. He also had a scar on his head where he told me that they had performed surgery on his brain. And I looked at Colin and I said, you have a very good heart. And we developed a friendship from that. Colin Bowen. I looked at, we sat down and we talked, and I saw he was writing Star Wars materials on a sheet of paper. It was amazing. I was fascinated with it. So while we were talking one day, Colin and I, we were being observed by another man. He looked like he might have been of Latin descent. I don't remember his name or anything like that. But I do know that on December 2nd, 2015, early in the morning, I believe somewhere around 7 o'clock, naked man enters patient rooms. He asks patient about inappropriate relationship. And patient handled the situation well. What happened was the man entered my room naked. He went in there growling at me and carrying on, asking me if I was having a sexual relationship with Colin Bowen. I said, I'm not gay. I've never been gay. Never will be gay. Nurse, nurse. And he ran out of there. That information is in my medical records. I believe that the VA people in Cleveland denied that it happened, that I was delusional. Okay, so I get out of the VA in Indianapolis after 3 days, which is okay. All right, because that is what they are allowed to do. But I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. And I'm pissed off for being in there in the first place. So I'm going to play one VA against another. Was my intention. So on December the 10th, I scheduled an appointment for December the 10th, which I met with my sister, Sandra McClinton, and we talked to, I guess it was a nurse, I don't recall, but the information is in my medical records. And we talked, and she asked me about psychosis. Am I psychotic? I said, no, that's what they wrote. That's not what I say as far as me being psychotic. And, the interview went well. Everything was okay. Only for my sister, Narda, to provide information to Dr. Dietrich Selznick on December 17, 2015. Now, the information that my sister Narda gave Dr. Selznick was my medical records, which I had dropped in her door. The Indianapolis medical records to show her that I had been released from the Richard Rodebush facility with a clean bill of health, saying that I am not suffering from any type of, they released me. No, they said that I am not a danger to kill myself or other people. That's what my medical record said from the Richard Rodebush facility. So, gather my thoughts here. So on December 17th, 2015, my sister, Narda Dixon, took the medical records that I placed in her door, along with something that I posted on Facebook that I still don't know what it is, and she gave the information to Dr. Dietrich Selzig, and he had determined that I am going to kill myself and other people, which is so damn stupid, it's a shame. They tried to force me to take Risperidone 2, an antipsychotic drug. And my understanding is that Risperidone 2 causes Parkinson's disease, which is the same disease that Muhammad Ali had, and it's the same disease that my friend Kenneth Hopkins had. It's a debilitating disease. My friend had to take a cocktail of pills just to move, just to lift his arm. They wanted me to take that Risperidone 2 that could have possibly caused Parkinson's disease with me. And all throughout my medical records, I'm stating that I have no intentions of killing myself. Why would I want to do that? I received 3 sources of income, and I was soon to get Social Security. And they knew all that. And they kept me in there anyway. I was calling everybody to try to get out of there. Okay, and no matter who I called, they were determined to keep me in there under pressure. It says that I turned down Risperidone 2 again in my medical records. They were trying to pressure me. At one time, I'm not sure if it was the first time that I was locked up in there or the second, I bumped my head. And that is noted in my medical records. I lost my balance. And I'm not the only person that has happened to. I was told by Darius Williams that it happened to him also. Okay? I think that might have been the second time that I was locked up in there. So, I'm in there in December 2015. I find out about it, because I'm on my way to Indianapolis after having went up to my daughter's school to address a situation in which she was suspended from school for allegedly having sex in the janitor's closet. That's what I was told. Okay? Now, the problem with her is that she was not in class. And the other problem is that they did not have proof that my daughter, had sex in the janitor's closet. And according to Aaliyah, some people were trying to get back at her. Some jealous people. So I went up to the school to address the situation with Mr. Super, the vice principal, and he tries to play me. Like I'm stupid or something. Ha, 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 Mr. Wimberly, we don't even know what you're talking about. Well, how often do you suspend my daughter, Mr. Super? I mean, can't you look in the computer and tell? Ha, 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 Mr. Wimberly, we don't know. Well, I mean, dog, where'd you get your job? Equal opportunity or what? Then I leave out of his office. with him screaming behind me, "Don't you ever come back in here." So I go over to his boss's office, a lady, and we have a national talk for about an hour about him, about Mr. Super, who's no longer at Streetsboro now. Okay? And I go home, thinking that everything's okay. I'm waiting for Aaliyah to get there, and she doesn't show up. And I'm pissed. I mean, what the hell's going on? I'm waiting for them, and I start driving back to go back to Indianapolis because I'm pissed. What the hell are they? Aaliyah gets home normally at around 3 o'clock. So I'm driving, down 303, going back to Indianapolis, when I get a telephone call from Mom Joy, Sheila's mom, and my mom-in-law, my mom. I get a call from her, and she says that I can turn around, that they're home now. And this was around 11 o'clock at night. So I turn around and I go back to Streetsboro, and Sheila tells me that the police are looking for me. The police are looking for me. And that was, after Narda and I had been arguing that morning. I told her I'd slap the shit out of her if she'd stick her nose in my business. Aaliyah and Sheila heard that conversation. I don't understand why Aaliyah would undermine me after going up to the school to address the situation with Mr. Super. And that's what ended up happening. Aaliyah undermined me. She called Sheila, who heard Narda and I arguing that morning, along with Aaliyah. Sheila tells Aaliyah to call Narda. As if they're on Narda's side in this situation. Sheila and Aaliyah. Okay? So, I go back to the house. Sheila tells me that the police are looking for me. I don't want the police looking for me. I go down to the police, the Streetsboro police. And I'm interviewed by a police officer. I tell him that I want a copy of the tape. I never get it, of the DVD of the interview. I never get it. Then after the interview, he asked me, am I willing to go down to Ravenna Hospital? And sure, I'm willing to go down there. There's nothing that I did. Then they locked me up in Ravenna Hospital, and I'm pissed. I'm fussing throughout the hospital. They can hear me fussing in the emergency room at Ravenna, holding me down there. And then finally, one of the CNNs came in and told me that they had pink slipped me, at the VA hospital. I found out that I had been pink slipped by Dr. Jane Dome, lady with a big nose, okay, and dark hair, that comes down to her shoulders. I drew a picture of her. A picture of her. And when I got in there, she immediately calls Narda. And I can't believe what I'm hearing. I'm sitting in front of a psychiatrist's office for nothing. And my sister is talking about me like a dog. Narda, my sister, who I bought the teeth in her mouth. I could not believe it, that she was doing that. Okay? So Dr. Domes threatens me. She says, I better sign a consent form or they're going to keep me in there. And I signed a consent form. Okay? To stay in there, for 3 days under threat by Dr. Dome. Okay? They kept me in there for 2 weeks trying to force me to take them drugs and would not let me out. Keith Dixon would do absolutely nothing but put a behavioral flag in my chart later after talking to him. Yeah, that's what happened. So finally, under pressure from Joy Patrick Wright, telling them that there's no change in my behavior, they let me go. But before they let me go, they were trying to convince me to take risperidone too. And I said, no, it would be counterproductive because I'm suing. Yeah. That's what happened. There's no change in my behavior. So they let me out. And I'm pissed about being in there. So I'm thinking that, well, damn, if I'm getting rejection from my family in Cleveland, which I no longer have, at least I think I would be able to get some support from my own family. At least who I thought was my family in D.C. My kids, Jason, Jonathan, Robin, Rashida, and them. So I go to D.C., to seek comfort around people that I thought would support me. And they were acting stupid. I go over to my daughter Robin's house and her husband, the guy who was pissing on the sidewalk and got caught, was chanting and carrying on. Like he's some kind of indigenous person. Ho-ya-hey, ho-ya-hey. And I'm trying to talk to Jonathan, my son. Jessica pulls him away. I call my mother-in-law, Joy Patrick Wright, a 47-year nurse who I had representing me. Okay, after I found out that an illegal power of attorney was established, putting Jason's name on it, on the power of attorney, and my sister Narda's name on my power of attorney. And I don't understand why I would put Narda as my power of attorney. And Narda is trying to keep me locked up in a mental health care facility, along with Jason. Okay? And I didn't realize that Jason was, as sick as he is, or need guidance. So, I find out that, they created a power of attorney without me knowing about it. And on January 12th of 2016, I established a power of attorney authorizing Joy Patrick Wright to make decisions for me. So the chanting and everything and the show that Stacy Black put on, my son-in-law, my daughter Robin's husband, was just that, a show. He's dancing and chanting while Jessica and my son Jonathan are cursing out Joy Patrick Wright, a 47-year nurse. While the Holy Spirit was in the room, according to them. I mean, it got so stupid with them, I wanted to get away from them. I called the police one time. The police came over, and Jonathan, the policeman, was talking at the same time. The police left. It got to the point where I wanted to get away from them, that I had Jonathan drop me off at the Southern Maryland Hospital, in which I was going to catch a taxi or something to get away from them. Next thing you know, I'm being locked up at Southern Hospital. Jonathan told them something, and they grabbed me and they put me down and, kept me in there for 3 days, which was okay. They are allowed to do that. Okay, but I'm pissed everywhere. So I get out of the hospital there. I go back over to Robin's house, and I want to go over to Walmart to pick up some DVDs because I want to put together some music. okay, on this machine that my son-in-law, the chanter, had. You know, so Jason and Jonathan, they insist on going over to Walmart with me. And we go over to Walmart, and I'm talking to people, about stuff that they did and stuff. I think it's hilarious. But Jonathan says that I'm stupid. Okay, well, I show them how stupid I am. I left them at Walmart in the cold. Okay, that had to be early February when it happened. Okay, after, and I did that, because while I was there seeing my kids, Jason stole my ID cards. And while Jessica and Jonathan were cursing at Sheila's mother, Joy Patrick Wright, my mother-in-law, Jessica was threatening to call the police on me for nothing. And I ended up having to sleep in my car because Jason had taken my ID cards and hid them. I had to sleep in my car while I was in D.C. to see my kids for support. And I ended up leaving Jason and Jonathan at Walmart when I left D.C. because Jonathan was saying that I was stupid. Okay, I drove to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, where I spent the night with Joy Patrick Wright and Calvin Wright, my mother-in-law, father-in-law, mother, father. Okay. Then I drove to Cleveland, Ohio, that following morning in the AM hours from Cherry Hill, North Carolina. Okay, so now I'm back in Cleveland. And I'm trying to talk to Nada. I'm trying to talk to Nada. They had the locks changed on the house and everything. I thought it was just me and Nada. That's what I thought. So, gather my thoughts here. It's just so much. So, I go back to Cleveland. And one day I go over to the VA hospital. And I'm trying to get my nephew Kwame a job. This was after the discussion that Kwame and I had regarding hip-hop. And me shooting him in the leg and in jest saying that. Okay, I went over to the hospital to see about getting Kwame a job. I saw who I thought was an old friend of ours, Roland Bryson. And I walked up to Roland and I said that we've looked at www.usajobs.opm.gov. Do you know if there's any jobs available around it? Thinking that he would check the board or something. First thing comes out of Roland's mouth is he a vet? No, he's a black man looking for a job. You already know that there's nepotism going on over here at the VA. In fact, the VA director was caught stealing money and he went to jail. It just automatically came out like that. He kind of surprised me when he asked me, was he a vet? He kind of pissed me off a little bit, but then he gets stupid. He calls Narda. Like Narda's supposed to have some control over me. And I'm pissed. I go over to Narda's house and you're acting like Quasi Ricky, and all this kind of stuff. Giving Roland all this respect and disrespecting me. Okay? So I go back over to the hospital again. I try to approach Roland about the stuff, and he walks away from me. I tries to pull him to the side. Who Narda supposed to be? She ain't nobody. You can't call her on me. But he wants to act stupid. And I called him a stupid bastard. That kind of thing. And I left because I'm pissed. Narda is trying to get me locked up. So around that time, a social worker came over to my house. A police officer, lieutenant, came up from Streetsboro, came over to my house, looking for camera equipment in which Aaliyah was circulating, unacceptable photos on the internet. Yeah, Mookie, my cousin, I believe, tried to have me arrested. And the police officer who came to my house told me that somebody was trying to get me. They knew about the photos already because we had told the police about Aaliyah taking, unacceptable photos. So, I try to get my nephew a job, and that kind of thing. Next thing you know, I go over to my sister's house, Sandra McClinton. And, I'm talking to Sandy in the kitchen, along with my nephew, Wooter. When Sandy excuses herself out of the room, and she goes in the back while I'm in the kitchen, and Wooter comes in the kitchen. Uncle Ricky, Sandy's talking to Nada on the telephone. The police are on the way. Dog. So I leave Sandy's house, and I'm on Brook Park and Ridge, going over toward the Walmart when I get a telephone call from the police officer. From a police officer in Streetsboro. Mr. Wembley, are you willing to go over to the VA? Yeah, I'm willing to go over there. Ain't nothing that I did. So I go over to the VA, and right after I get there, I call Sam Thomas to let him know that I'm being over there again. And then I got to go through the process of being locked up all over again for nothing. I'm a danger to myself all over again. And right before I left the VA the previous time, Dr. Heizon, he doesn't seem to know where the Taj Mahal is. A Filipino guy. But anyway, in February, around February the 9th, I'm locked up all over again after going in there voluntarily. And they still trying to force me to take risperidone too. This drug that, causes Parkinson's disease. They did not allow my attorney to enter into the facility. They did not allow me to use a telephone. They wrote lies all throughout my medical records. They wrote down that I intended to circulate my mother's naked photo on the internet. They wrote down that I kept a photo of my mother's bed sores in my pocket, in my wallet. They wrote down that I could not answer a single question in 46 seconds. But I maintain that I can say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, P, O, N, M, L, K, J, I, H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. I can say that. But they said that I could not answer a question. In 46 seconds, they said that I was delusional. They said that I was talking about 666. And I did mention 666. because my son Jonathan had a receipt in his wallet for $6.66, in which he had bought a pack of cigarettes. They said that I didn't want any visitors, according to Rob Hayes. After I had my brother, Ronald Mitchell, come up to see me twice in the cold. They lied throughout my entire medical record. And they knew that I had hepatitis C at that time because they had a lab test done on me to see if everything was so. There was a kangaroo court session that took place. And then they lied and said that in my record and said that I had canceled a previous appearance with the magistrate. But there was a kangaroo court case that took place on March the 2nd, 2016, in which I told the compelling story of the death of my mother, dying with a hole in the back, could not swallow saliva, on a ventilator. I'm under pressure. And Mr. Magistrate Gregory S. Thomas shakes my hand. Judge Russo looked like he was about to cry. I could have swore I saw a tear come out of his eye. But Magistrate Thomas shakes my hand, and he gives me the impression that they're going to release me, only for him to give me 90 days and determine that I am legally schizophrenic. And I didn't find out about this until the appeal process had ended. That's what happened. So, I'm screwed. I'm doing everything that I can to get out of there. So finally, I saw a man that was in there and he was crying, he was boo-hooing. Crocodile tears. He's coming out of his eyes. I thought he was crying because they were keeping him in there. I found out that they were crying because they were releasing him. Yeah. They were crying. He was crying because he was being released. So I came up with the idea that, I might as well go ahead and act like I want to be in there. Then if I act like I want to be in there, they'll let me go. Which is what happened. I told them that, I liked it there. I asked them if they could get me a room in a domiciliary. Then all of a sudden, they're going to release me. And which they did. They ended up letting me go on one of the other floors. I guess that's not quite as, suicidal. The people not quite being as suicidal as I'm depicted to be. So, when I got on the other floor, I found out that I was able to leave, in which I did. So, I don't want to, I'm going to keep a low profile now. I don't want to get any type of trouble because of the control that the nutcase psychiatrist Linda Bond has over people. Because I was told by a Mr. Bob Evans, theologian, that Dr. Bond had control over the magistrates, that Dr. Bond was able to override a magistrate that presided over a case that Mr. Evans was in. He told me that Dr. Bond had never lost a case. And I found that to be, I believe to be true because she didn't lose my case. So I believe that the judges, they did not honor their oath of office. They did not do what was right. And that's what happened at the Cleveland, Ohio VA. So I'm trying to keep a low profile now. I don't want to get in any kind of trouble. So I'm keeping it quiet. But I'm waiting for my time to come where I'm going to do what's right and get rid of, do everything I can to get rid of evil people like Dr. Linda C. Bond, Dr. Jane Doan, Dr. Dietrich Selzig, Dr. Hyzon, not the female Hyzon, but the male Hyzon, the Filipino guy who claims that he doesn't know where the Taj Mahal is. You know, get rid of people like that who don't care about the veterans, the welfare of the veterans. I mean, what is this all about? Is it about, trade deficit or what? You know, you trying to get your money back through me? So, I'm waiting my time. I'm biding my time. I'm waiting to leave. And finally, we get the opportunity to leave Streetsboro, Ohio, and we go to Greenville, North Carolina. We moved to Greenville on April the 26th of 2021. Finally, after years of trying to get my daughter into the Air Force and out of an abusive relationship with Ronnie Tramble, a habitual felon, heroin dealer, allegedly involved in auto thefts. We finally get her away from him. And we moved to North Carolina, only for my sister-in-law, Deborah Phillips, to come over, knocking on our door 4 days later, around the 30th of December. I didn't realize she was going to move in with us for 10 months and accuse me of summoning demons out of the toilet to attack her and to make her sick and try to kill her, and rubbing on a car that was given to me and calling her a stank hoe, when I didn't. I didn't realize that she was going to undermine me and try to damn me to hell and claim that she was a prophet after living in my house for 10 months, rent-free. We were finally able to get rid of her, only to have a couple, Mary and Mike, come in the house after talking to my wife Sheila about Mary Magdalene Peartree, and Willie Mike Clark, who were living in a hotel, paying $500 a week, is what I was told. Mary is a hostess at Ruby Tuesdays, and Mike is a cook that has been in prison. But they're members of Sheila's church in Greenville, North Carolina, pastored by Joseph Wiggins, who, in my opinion, has questionable character. So, we come down here, we help with our mother-in-law, and she is very, very egotistical, very hard to deal with. But she's suffering from Lewy body dementia. She sees things that other people don't see, I guess. So, after 10 months of having to deal with Deborah, thinking and claiming that I'm sneaking around my own apartment to watch her, and I'm summoning demons out of the toilet, and that kind of thing, we take in Willie Mike Clark and Mary Peartree. and they're constantly running in and out of our apartment. I saw them on camera run in and out of apartment 24 times. And they're dirtying up my rugs while they're doing that. And I'm saying, dog, I mean, are they smoking cigarettes like that? You know, they're going out in a hot car with the doors open, smoking a cigarette. Mike is a big guy, sweaty, with beady eyes, talking on the telephone all the time. You know, dog, are they smoking cigarettes all like that? You know, I mean, they smoking cigarettes constantly out in the car, in the heat, drawing attention to us. One day we get a telephone call. I get a telephone call when Mary and Mike are in the car. I'm taking them everywhere they want to go. I'm trying to help them. I was told they were paying $500 a month, a week, to stay in a hotel. He's a cook. She's a hostess at Ruby Tuesdays. Okay? So finally it gets to the point where, you know, they want me to go out and help them get a car. You know, they tell me that, you know, the Lord has blessed them with a car. I saw them shouting and carrying on. You know, so I take them over to the dealership, you know, thinking that they were going to pick up a car. And all of a sudden the dealer asked me to come in there. He tells me that they want me to sign for them to get a car, and I'm told that all I have to do is just drive the car off the car lot and give the car to Mike. I'm not going to do that, you know, because if I sign over for the car, why do I need Mike to drive it? Only to, you know, eventually find out that Mike is a habitual felon who's a heroin dealer, and Mary, I believe, is on heroin because I saw her on camera nodding at my door. So, you know, after they, you know, he tried to convince me to get him a car. We're on our way back home, and we're going at it, you know. I'm telling him why I'm not going to get the car, and he's talking over me. So finally, I just said, fuck it, I ain't taking you any motherfucking place. You know, and then they're all pissed at me because I'm not going to sign for them to get a car. Only for me to find out later, after going over to the Justice Department, the Justice Center, that Mike is a habitual felon, heroin dealer, allegedly. And habitual felon is true, but the heroin dealer is alleged. And I strongly believe that Mary is on heroin. After I saw her nodding several times at my door. I know a heroin nod when I see one. Now, thank God, after threat, and they were in our house all summer, we were able to get rid of them after they dirtied up our house. Okay, no kind of thanks, nothing. Ain't heard nothing from her. I called Mary one time to see if she would be honest about the Mike situation, because I knew he had cases coming up. He had a case coming up for, you know, distribution of heroin and selling heroin out of a vehicle, I believe it was. So, after that, we got rid of them. Then we get an SOS call from Aaliyah. We find out that Aaliyah has gotten out of the Air Force that I tried 4 years to get her into, to get away from this low-down, no-good, dirty bastard, Ronnie Trample, who has been an anathema in our lives. She gets out of the Air Force, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house where she could walk to work, in this piece of cake job that she had working, sit behind a desk all day in medical admin. She smuggles a little fool on the base, and then all of a sudden she's pregnant, and she's in Ohio. and I get a telephone call from a police lieutenant, I believe, at the Garfield Heights Police Department that tells me that Aaliyah has been a witness to a shooting in Garfield Heights. And I'm pissed. You know, what the hell is she doing in Garfield Heights when she's supposed to have her ass on the base at Columbus Air Force Base? I mean, dog. So we get an SOS call from Aaliyah. The little bastard and Aaliyah apparently are fighting. He tells Aaliyah that he wants to have a menage a trois, which we knew that the little fool was like that in the first place. So I got to drive all the way to Cleveland, Ohio, from Winterville, North Carolina, to pick Aaliyah up. And I'm pissed. I'm driving all throughout the western Maryland, you know, the mountains of Pennsylvania, through the fog. I'm tired, I'm sleepy, and I'm fussing all the way, and Sheila has to hear it. We finally get to Cleveland. Aaliyah is over at Tony Norfleet's house. Well, Tony Norfleet's wife, Lisa, has COVID. What the hell are you doing over there? So we come back to Cleveland. Okay, we're going to our apartment, and it's raining a lot. And when it was raining, it started to flood in our apartment. I lift up my dispersion rug that I have, and black mold is on the rug, up under the rug. Well, we have Aaliyah, bellyache, and Ariache, the two babies in there. I can't have that, you know. So I get a hold of management. And we ended up moving out from one apartment to another. From a first floor apartment at 636 Legacy Court, Unit 171, to a second floor apartment, Unit 636 Legacy Court, apartment 13, up on the second floor. I moved just about everything out of the apartment by myself at 69 years old. So I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted from doing this. And one night I go up there, I cannot move. The only thing I could do is lay on the floor after moving all that furniture. And on October the 13th, I believe it was, the 14th, something like that, of 2023, I called EMS to come get me because I'm exhausted. You know, I go over to EMS, next thing you know, I am sitting in front of a psychiatrist. What the hell does psychiatrists have to do with chest pains and being exhausted? Okay, I did have chest pains because I had received a telephone call earlier that day from my cousin Marilyn, you know, with the F you, I'm gonna get you, motherfucker, you a bitch ass nigga. She called me that day, you know, while we were moving, and I was exhausted that night. You know, I went over to the police department earlier that day with chest pain to file a police report against her. And, you know, later on that night, you know, having been exhausted from all that moving and everything, plus the trauma of the chest pains, you know, with my cousin threatening me, I called EMS. You know, they took me over to ECU. I'm sitting in front of a psychiatrist, and they poking holes in front of me. They poking holes in me, taking blood and all that kind of stuff. They released me after one day, which is okay. I left out of the place. Chaplain Ono came out of the hospital to see me. She gave me a couple Bibles. Chaplain Ono at the ECU facility. I left ECU, and after one day, and then a couple days later, around October the 16th, I think it was, I'm getting into a heated discussion with my daughter about the habitual felon, Ronnie Tramble. We're talking at the same time. I'm telling her about Ephesians 6:2. But it doesn't seem to matter. We're talking at the same time. Every time I say something, she says something. We're going tit for tat. That gets on my nerves, especially when you're talking stupid, meaning lacking common sense. So, I leave out of the apartment. I call Linda Weaver, an old friend of mine, the mother of my son, Tavares Weaver. And, I'm talking to her at the management complex about Aaliyah when all of a sudden EMS shows up. Are you willing to go over to ECU hospital, sir? Do I have a choice? So I go over to ECU hospital around that time. Same thing all over again. I'm talking to a psychiatrist and all this kind of stuff. For nothing. They keep me there for 3 days. Okay. Then I leave. They scheduled an appointment for November the 1st for me to go up there. They want to talk to me. I go up there. Damn near the whole staff is around when I'm talking to them, and they're trying to convince me to take Seroquel, a pill that I don't need. And I'm telling them that I do not need to take that pill. Okay, so then when it's time for me to go, one of the doctors, I believe it to be Dr. Daniel Becack, pulls me over to the side and tells me that, you need to take this pill. It'll knock you right on out. How does he know? I've taken it. Yeah, he took the pill. So I go home, and I'm very, very hesitant. I don't want to take them pills, but I'm under pressure. So I take the pill on November the 1st that evening, the Seroquel. It makes me lose my balance. I don't like anything that's going to make me druggish and sluggy. And I damn near fell. I hardly was able to make it up to my bedroom. When I got into my bedroom and I crashed out. Okay, the following day, November the 2nd, I didn't take the pill because I didn't like the way it made me feel. It made me fall. So I go over to the doctor's for a November the 3rd appointment. I didn't realize I needed to go to psychiatry. I went to the same places I'd gone to before, emergency room. Now, I told them what happened, that I took the pill that made me lose my balance. I asked them, was it possible that I can take the pill either PRN or they would lower the strength. At the same time, I see a receptionist out in the hallway. I'm drawing a picture for her. It's like the angelic forces against the evil forces. That's all it was. Next thing you know, the doctor, he's talking to me. I think everything's okay. He leaves out of the room. He calls my wife, Sheila. Next thing you know, they send me to a hospital for 7 days. I think that's the one in Leland. I'm not sure. And I'm pissed. I'm in there. And I'm telling the people that, I should not be in there. I'm calling Senator Tom Tillis. I'm calling the president. I gave them the president's telephone number, 1-202-456-1111. All this stuff was going on. while I was in there. They were very nice while I was in there. I saw some amazing stuff. There was a Danielle in there. I have a Danielle Evans, who is my niece. There was a Harry, Mr. Harry in there. He was a golfer. Okay, my brother Ronnie plays golf. He said he was going to give Ronnie a green golfing jacket. Okay, there was Catherine the Great. You know, I called her Catherine the Great. Something was wrong with Catherine. She would always talk about Jehovah. Okay. There was a Russell in there. You know, I have an Uncle Russell. There was a person who drew my blood in there by the name of Phyllis. And there was a officer that ended up taking me home by the name of Clark. Phyllis Clark was a friend of mine when I was stationed at Andrews Air Force Base, Maryland. Yeah. So, you know, they kept me locked up in a hosky for 7 days. And I spent my time singing, you know, hello, it's me. I've been thinking about you for a long, long time. Stuff like that. You know, they know I should not have been in there. Okay, so, you know, I'm at a hosky from November 3rd to November 10th. And they put down unspecified psychosis in my chart. Unspecified psychosis, I don't know what that is. I don't think such a thing exists. Okay? So, you know, I'm pissed. They locking me up all over the place. I've been in there twice for nothing. 3 times this time for nothing. So I go over there on November the 22nd with my wife, Sheila. You know, the day before Thanksgiving, November 22nd, 2023. I text out, I tell Sheila that if there's any problems with me in there, if I'm not out within a reasonable period of time, for her to call Senator Tom Tillis, 1-202-329-0375, I believe the number was. And I go in there. As soon as I get in there, my doggone telephone goes out. But prior to going in there, I text Daniel in the Lion's Den. Okay? So I go in there, you know, November 22nd, the day that John Kennedy was shot, also the birthday of my granddaughter, Ayanna Norman, Ayanna Thompson now. So, I believe. So, I tell them that I want a real evaluation from a real psychiatrist. And that information is in my medical records by ECU personnel. Okay? So I'm in there, you know, sitting in there. And I have Chaplain Ono come in there also. And then Ezekiel Alfred Cruz Hernandez specifically asked me, am I going to kill myself or other people? I tell him, no, I'm not. So what does he do? He sends me to Carolina Dunes. You know, with something like, 8 days or so. I know I was locked up 18 altogether. Sends me to Carolina Dunes. I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm pissed. I got to go through this all over again. And while I was in there, it was amazing. There was a Jessica in there. She was a registered nurse. There was a Jane in there. My mother-in-law's name is Jane. Okay, there was a Mr. Vanderveer in there. He told me that he wrote 3 books. He liked to talk a lot. You know, he was in room 711. My wife worked at Speedway Gases. Speedway is owned by 711. And I was trying to get a hold of Mr. Michael Francis, who was involved with the Colombo crime family. And I understand that he had a scheme going on back in the 70s, 80s, I think, in which they were siphoning, 80s, in which they were siphoning, not siphoning, they were taxing gases. They had a scheme, you know, involving gas. I was trying to get a hold of him to get involved in the gas business through 7-Eleven, because my wife worked at Speedway. Okay, just some amazing things going on. But, you know, I spent most of my time just singing in my room. You know, some very nice people. There was Angela in there. There was a Malika, the social worker. They all knew that I should not have been in there. So finally, after being released, you know, spending another, I think, 7 days or so locked up in Carolina Dunes, they let me go. And I'm doing all this, I'm gathering all this information so I can sue them. Because this is all spiritual. And I knew all along that I was going to have to go back to the original source, the original evaluation, which was Dr. Linda C. Bond's evaluation of me suffering from late onset schizophrenia. So, you know, I'm thinking that this is all over. You know, it's about 8 times that I've been locked up for nothing. And I'm thinking that it's not going to be a 9th time. But damn if it didn't happen again. On November the 1st, on January 21st, my daughter and I, she's listening to some music, you know, while she's doing her homework. And then I just want to have her listen to some of what I have, some of this rap that I have. Now, I'm putting on social media. She doesn't have time. Well, it seems like you always have time for everything else, but when I want to do something, you don't have time. So we get into another heated discussion. I leave out of the apartment. I'm contemplating leaving the area altogether. I called my sister, Rosalind Wilson, about possibly going over to Dana's house, my niece, to spend some time with her. Somebody got some sense. So I'm not able to get a hold of her. I get into my car. I drive over toward this pond adjacent from the apartment complex that we live in, and I'm talking to Conrad Artis, who played basketball with me when I was in Greece. We talked about Aaliyah for a long time, about the stupid things that she had been doing. Then I go back to my apartment, and I start to prepare the complaints against the psychiatrist when I get a knock on my door, and it's the EMS. I'm pissed. So I go back over to ECU again, and I'm there all night and all day. I tell them people I'm about to have a stroke if they don't let me out of here. I know that my tachycardia had gone up over 102 at one point. I know that happened. You know, so, you know, that's what happened. So eventually they got a psychiatrist in there that has some sense. and he was Greek. And we talked about Glyphatus, Piraeus, the Minoan civilization. I told him that I've been on the airplane with the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. I believe that I said that. And then there's a 14-minute, 47-second presentation on YouTube, in which at the 2-minute and 30-second portion of that presentation, there's Hugo Arvizu, number 10, shooting a free throw. And right behind him, you will see number 22. Looks exactly like me, the MVP. Okay, what has gotten me out of this ordeal was that I prayed. That's what happened. It was my goal to read the book of Revelation, to read the book, the word, the good word, in its entirety. And I believe that I have done so. Just from the things that happened to me, it proves that he is so. One day I went into I was singing, Old Man River, that old man river. And I looked inside my safe and I found Keith Rivers' telephone number in it. I hadn't talked to Keith in years. I called him early in the morning. I talked to him. He told me that he was from the south side of Cleveland. He went to JFK. Some amazing stuff going on. I know that he is so. I read the book of Revelation online. I compared it to Luke. I compared it to Mark. I looked at Luke because I had been putting on the internet 8 years ago that I felt that I was a voice crying out from the wilderness. Doggone it, if I don't look at Luke and I see that he's the son of Margaret and Zechariah, and he's the predecessor of Jesus Christ. He was baptized by water. Yeah. So what I know is because of my experience. I know that he is so. He could not be this stupid. Just could not be. So that pretty much completes my story about what happened. When I got to Ahoskie, the first time I felt that I had experienced a revelation. When I got there, prior to going there, I was being tormented all night by a psychiatrist. I was telling him that I have no intentions of shooting myself. Why would I do that? He was trying to trick me up. And I was telling him the same story about my mom, dying in the hospital with a hole in her back. When for some reason I was called out to go to Ahoskie by Mr. Dr. Bridges. And I believed him to be a great man. He asked me what was I doing there. I told him that it was my destiny to be so. And he accepted it. And we got along just fine. I never saw him again. I wish I could. But he accepted. So I know he's so. The Bible will guide you through the what you're going through. And that's what it did for me. I knew all along that the truth would prevail. I bear no animosity toward anyone regarding what happened. I look at it as an honor. Just like what I said when I received that, when I was interviewed on the television station. when I was in Greece. I said it was an honor, to play with these guys because they gave me the chance to be successful in that, with what I was doing in Greece back in 1983. And Jesus is so, he is a guiding light. Somebody upstairs is pulling the strings. And I kid you not. I believe that we will all, live a happy ending. In my story, my hell and glory, Cleveland, Ohio, how I love you so. I've always represented Cleveland, and what it's about. It's the history. The history that makes it so great. I talked to people, and they talked about what was, a great neighborhood, and it could be it again. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping to bring my community back to life again, to tell the untold story, about Cleveland, Ohio, and the Glenville area, the Glenville Hall of Fame, Tiger Bronze pool room, Jeffrey Ned, the pool shark, JoJo Fisher, the coolest man in Cleveland, everybody, the Hardiman family, my great-grandfather, Albert Hardiman, Grenada, Mississippi, born in 1847. He died in 1927. He was married to Elias Hardiman. She was born in 1851. She died in 1945. Elias, there's an Elias off of Memphis Avenue, Elias Church, St. Elias. Okay. You have Uncle Fletcher, World War II veteran, Pearl Harbor survivor. My grandmother, Annie Beck Hardiman. She was a bishop in the church, Methodist denomination, 1928. She was born in 1888. She died in 1965. My grandfather, Patterson Hardiman, finest man I've ever known. A great man. He moved his family from Grenada, Mississippi. He worked for a white man as a sharecropper. Became a property owner in Cleveland, Ohio. One of the properties was next to the Cleveland Browns practice facility. And then he owned property on a street called Chamberlain, like Wilt. And he owned the property at 1414 East 115th Street. The area that I love. Across the street from me was Art McCoy, the activist. Art McCoy is Cleveland. Whether you like him or not, that's on you. But he's Cleveland. He's representing Cleveland, Ohio. The city that I love. Cleveland Browns, Cavaliers, the Guardians. All the Cleveland teams, the Monsters. I am the monster. I have Young Frankenstein. He's part of my 1800 DVD collection. Cleveland is my love. Cleveland is the place. Okay. Other than the 6th floor of the Lewis Stokes Hospital. And I believe that completes the story. I'm hoping that, this story will help other people. The stupidity is unnecessary. I don't understand why people want to get sued And I don't understand why people would lie. And that needs to be addressed to the Congress. You know, all those people who failed to keep their oath in office, you know, such as Mr. James Holmes, congressional liaison, who tried to bribe me. And that completes my story. Thank you so much.